Let's check what's on the legal docket. Fox News legal analyst Lis Wiehl joining us every Wednesday at this time. I know we have some cases that we are set to talk about, but Lis, I need to get off the freeway because it was a Brownsville, Texas initiated court action that arrested the president's executive pseudo-amnesty. Judge Hanen, our local judge, he took what the 26 states, including Texas, wanted to do, which was to stop the president's call to allow some type of pseudo-amnesty for millions of people in the country illegally, give them a chance to start working for a living down here, get them some type of temporary Social Security number. And so now that the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals has said, yes, this program needs to stop as it's still being decided, the High Court is the next stop for this piece of litigation, but the High Court doesn't necessarily, it's not forced to take this issue. It could punt it back to the Fifth Court and say, you know what the Fifth Court said stands.
Let me interject here real quick. The next stop could be, this was just a panel of the Fifth Circuit.
Right.
The next stop could be the full.
En banc. Right, it's called en banc when you get the whole the appellate court. Yeah, I mean, definitely. In fact, it has to pretty much go through. First of all, the Supreme Court is done hearing cases for this session, so it wouldn't be even heard by the Supreme Court until October at the earliest. But it is interesting how this one judge, Judge Hanen, I hope I'm pronouncing the name right, really sort of feisty, I think, to me, said, no, I'm gonna stay this action, stay this law and into going into effect, and now it's gone all through the ranks. It was a 2-1 decision, 2 for and 1 dissenting. Obviously, the two that were for it and saying, "Hey, we're not going to let this law go into effect right now," also said that they thought that on the merits, the government would lose if it went to a higher court. That was part of their analysis. So that was interesting to me. At least 2 of the 3 judges think that the government's going to lose wherever it goes.
If the full Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals sides with this small panel, and then of course when would that be? When is that hearing happen?
There probably one side would have to file an emergency motion, and that would be the government because they lost, saying that we have to have this heard right away because it's going to have a negative impact. And they can cite all sorts of examples. I suppose they have to get that brief in fairly quickly. The appellate court doesn't, go on as long a recess as the Supreme Court does, so they could hear it within the next, couple of months, even before the October session starts for the Supreme Court. And then you got it exactly right. Whoever loses at the en banc, the full appellate court level, appeals to the Supreme Court, the Supreme can just say, "Nah, we're not going to take it." They don't have to take anything. I mean, this is a huge case and important for the whole country, so they probably will, but they don't have to.
Legal analyst Lis Wiehl joining us on 710 KURV at the High Court. Lis, how does intake work? Do they rotate in and out one person or a small panel that they decide what cases to hear? How does that work at the High Court?
I don't exactly know. I don't think it's a rotating thing. I mean, I think that they all decide together, sort of en banc, if you will, what they're going to take. But I knew the stats a long time ago, and I don't have them at my fingertips right now, but they are infinitesimal, the amount that they take versus what they don't take. And as you said, they don't have to take anything. What they like to take are cases where there is a split between the circuits. They like that because they don't want things to be different from one state to the other. Or, as in this case, where you've got a fundamental, social policy, if you will, or
of constitutional stature. I mean, I'm thinking
exactly all of that. They like to take those cases.
Yeah, and because the president has exerted his authority, not the first one to do so, but he did it rather big this time around.
Well, he's saying prosecutorial discretion. We don't have to prosecute all these people, so it's not really full-on amnesty, but we're just using our prosecutorial discretion. The states are saying not only is that an overreach, but they're also saying a little bit more nuance. They're saying, wait, feds, you, by this executive order not having gone through Congress, you're imposing on us, the states, an incredible, monetary thing here. We got to pay a lot of money.
But should that be a part of the legal decision? That's kind of an aside to this whole thing.
Well, it is and it isn't, because states' rights say, look, if you're going to pass a law, you've got to make sure you don't burden us, the states, unless you pass a law that funds it or does something else.
Okay.
So they can say it's an unreasonable burden on the states for you to go ahead with this executive order.
Well, here's another aside. There have been accusations of venue shopping, starting with Judge Hayden himself.
Right.
He has a record of ruling against Obama's
Nothing
immigration
new.
policy.
They do it in the ninth all the time.
Yeah.
Do the opponents, does the Justice Department have a case with that at all?
Yeah, but how do you make that really? I mean, you can say it. I guess you go after Judge Hayden, I suppose, a little bit, but what's done is done. I mean, it's already through the appellate. Now you're away from the primary judge, Judge Hayden, you're now to an appellate level.
Okay, well,
so
there
they can make it, but I wouldn't buy it.
It wasn't a unanimous decision.
2-1.
One judge thinks that the government has a case.
Yep. Yeah, well, that's why you go to the en banc, which is all of them having to weigh in.
Okay.
And you see that in the Ninth Circuit all the time, where they go en banc because they can't agree, frankly, and then it goes to the Supreme Court.
Even if you're involving technicalities and advisories to the states and federal registry and all that type of stuff, the state issues versus executive order,
right?
It has constitutional implications.
It
What
does.
say you, Lis? Will the High Court swallow it, or will they be, as they've been before, weenies and just punt it back to the lower court? Say, you know what? Okay, what you guys said. Yeah, what he said.
What he said. Yeah, what you said. Yeah. It's too early to tell. Now I'm punting it right now. It's too early to tell, in my legal opinion. And I know the Supremes aren't going to get to it until maybe January of next year. In which case, who knows whether this will even be on the table anymore.
Just in time for another election year.
Exactly.
Yeehaw, boy, this is going to be on the front burner for a presidential election. All right, Lis, thank you much. Lis Wiehl from Fox News joining us on 710 KURV.